The Phillies play the Nationals tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll have more on that around the trade deadline. Let's bring Mike McGarry in from the Press of Atlantic City, who is on his way to the ballpark because they're anticipating possibly some news happening today. Mike, would you anticipate the Phillies tried yesterday to make a trade? I guess there was some sort of snafu that happened that prevented that from happening. But do you anticipate something happening between now and the time this game starts tonight?
You know, something better happen in the next couple of days, right? Because the Phillies have a shot at this division. I've often said they're a flawed team chasing a flawed team in the New York Mets, but the Phillies need some pitching desperately. So something better happen, and we only have today, tomorrow, and Friday for it to happen. So something got to happen soon if the Phillies hope to break this postseason drought.
Right. They tried for Tyler Anderson. They had a deal in place. One of the Phillies players apparently did not pass the physical. And now it appears they're in on John Gray. Do you think starting pitching has now become the top target for this team? It was bullpen, but has the starting pitching now taken over as number one issue?
I think it has in the past 10 days just because of what you've seen, right? The last two Matt Moore starts, including last night, you've been down, 7-2 a couple of days ago. You were down 6-1 last night. You had Vinny Velasquez be non-competitive last Saturday. So if you're going to try to get a playoff spot, you can't have two pitchers in your rotation not give you a chance to win. So what they're looking for in Tyler Anderson, in John Gray, they're not shooting for the moon here. They're not shooting for Max Scherzer, right? Small request. Just give me a pitcher who can go out there for 5 innings, maybe 6 if we're lucky, and give us a chance to win the game. That's all we're looking for here. We're not asking for Bob Gibson to take them out. We're just looking for somebody to go out there and throw 5 competitive innings, 6 if it's a good day.
Yeah, it seems that, you're hearing stuff like Craig Kimbrell, Rodriguez from the Pirates. Like, yeah, if they can get that closer and make a deal work, maybe they will. But they have now turned their attention to figuring out what to do in the back end of that Phillies starting rotation here. What about making that big move? Is that something that they should do as well? Or is this, hey, you got to go find 2 starting pitchers, forget about the back end of the bullpen, worry about that later? Or if you could get Craig Kimbrell, Mike, would you say you got to pull the trigger?
Yeah, if you can get a bullpen guy, a closer like Craig Kimbrell, and it's not going to cost you an elite prospect, which Dave Dombrowski said they're not in a position where they want to part with elite prospects yet. And of course, it's an even debate to ask yourself if the Phillies have any elite prospects in the minors. If you can get a bullpen guy like that, that's fine. Ranger Suarez has done okay in that back end of the bullpen, but the immediate need is you got to find a guy who can get you out of the second inning before you worry who's going to pitch the 8th or 9th inning now. So bullpen always a priority for any contending team. But I think the biggest priority right now is the number 4 and 5 starter.
Yeah, last night Bryce Harper said, Mike, the offense can't keep getting down and trying to dig us out of these situations. I mean, that's the first kind of, I don't want to say shot, but realization that the offensive players are beginning to get frustrated by the fact that their pitching has let them down because it seems that they think they have a playoff-worthy offense.
Well, they do. Or they have had since the All-Star break. The first half of the season, maybe not so much, but since the All-Star break, they have done a better job of hitting the baseball and have been able to out-hit some of their mistakes. So, Bryce is exactly right. You're only going to have so many nights like you had on Monday, I guess it was, when McCutchen hits the walk-off home run. You only have, you're down 4-0 in that game. You come back and win that game. You're only going to have so many of those nights. It's not realistic to expect the offense and the Phillies hitters to fall behind 4, 5, 6 runs and then mount a comeback every game. It's not going to happen. So the offense has proven itself since the All-Star break to be viable, to kind of be maybe what it was we thought it would be when the season began. But you can't fall down 4, 5, 6 runs every night and expect to hit your way back into the game. Once a week, maybe 7 days a week? Absolutely not.
Yeah, they're down 6-0 last night, and obviously they tried to get back in that game, just couldn't do it. And look, I know Matt Moore gives up 2 3-run homers, Mike, but another thing is, I mean, I just got done playing with 13-year-olds. If they made some of the plays Gregorius made, I had to sit them.
Yeah, well, Didi Gregorius is a big problem, and that's when we talk about maybe, what do you do with the Phillies core and maybe some off-season moves. But you cannot go through another season with Didi Gregorius. First of all, hitting the way he's hitting, he's slumping. I think he's batting, below 200 since he returned from the injury. He's been shaky defensively all season. If Alec Boehm is out there at third and Didi Gregorius is out there at short, every time a ground ball is hit to the left side of the infield, you're kind of holding your breath and covering your eyes because you're afraid of what's going to happen. You can't go through another season of that. That's probably a question that's got to be solved in the offseason. But you're exactly right. You're fighting uphill on so many avenues here, and you can't expect the offense to overcome bad starting pitching, bad defense, and a bad bullpen. Give the offense a hand and fix one of those things by Friday.
Couple things. There's so much with this team, man. You wrote about this the other day. I was out, but Sir Anthony Dominguez apparently, is he a guy that the Phillies say, look, if we can hang around, we might get some help with him? I mean, he hasn't pitched in almost 3 years.
Yeah, I think yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's closer to 2, or it's about 2 years. Just the fact that I think that they're trying to, get him back. We entered the ballpark yesterday. He was pitching a game there. Just the fact that they're trying to get Sir Anthony back for September. And he had the Tommy John surgery last July. So a year later, 13 months later, it's not unreasonable that a guy could come back from Tommy John surgery and pitch. But just the fact that they're trying to maybe get him back and add him to the bullpen says what they think about the bullpen. If he does come back, what kind of expectations can we have? We're going to have modest expectations for a guy who has pitched in 2 years. I don't think you're going to see him in the 9th inning saving games, but if he could come back and help you get through the 5th, the 6th, maybe the 7th, I mean, the Phillies will take any sort of pitching help they can get at this point.
Yep. Is John Gray, does that do anything for you? If you can get John Gray, do you say, okay, that move gets you closer?
Yeah, I do. And you know why I do, Mike? Because look at the team you're chasing. The New York Mets, they're not exactly the big red machine or the 27 Yankees, right? They pitched Jared Eichhoff last night, and he gave up about, I think it was 100 runs in 2 innings. They threw Rich Hill, who 4 or 5 years ago was pitching for the Long Island Ducks. They pitched him on Sunday. So, you're chasing a team that kind of has your problems. If you can fix that problem, I go ahead and do it. So I know the names Tyler Anderson and John Gray, don't excite fans, and we're not going to be having John Gray days, right? Happy that he's on the mound. But if you can get a guy who can throw, again, we're not asking for Warren Spahn here. 5 innings, maybe 6 on a good day, just so when we turn the TV before we settle in our chair, you're not looking at a team down 6-0, right? I mean, give the offense a chance to win.
Real quick, you mentioned Boehm before and the defensive issues there. What's the plan with him? I mean, Torreyes, I'm not sitting here. You're not going to have a Ronald Torreyes day either. But do you take him out of the lineup?
At this point, I don't. I think what Ronald Torreyes is giving you offensively and defensively is better than what you're getting from Alec Boehm. So, I think you stay with Torreyes. Boehm is a guy that I'm not ready to give up on yet because of his youth. Maybe he can figure out some of his issues. But again, the Phillies have a lot of problems, right? You mentioned shortstop, third base. Hoskins defensively at first, McCutchen in left field having a good year, but aging, his contract is up. What are we going to do in center field? Back of the rotation, bullpen. There's a lot of issues. Somehow they're still in a playoff race. I think you do what you can to maybe get through this playoff race. And then when the offseason comes, Alec Boehm, all the things we talked about, they're at the top of the list that you have to fix going into next season.
I wonder, Mike,
Yes.
if they use Bohm in these discussions. Is that something they would think about doing, or are they not at that point yet?
Yeah, at this point, I don't give up on Alec Bohm. I think what you saw from him last year had some promise. Maybe a position change for him. Maybe he's having a sophomore slump. I don't think you give up on him yet. I find it hard to believe, and again, haven't talked to him about this, but I find it hard to believe that his defensive problems are not carrying over to his offensive performances, especially that he's not a veteran player, he's a young player. You know, think about it. If you were really struggling at third base, it's hard to imagine that that's not going to be on your mind when you come to the plate. So, you know, I would be hesitant to give up on him. I would almost say, let's see what he does next year, and then we'll make a better informed decision on him. But as for right now, I'm trying to get in the playoffs. I'm playing Ronald Torreyes over Alec Bohm, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, no question about it.
All right, Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. His must-win column appears on Fridays in the Press of Atlantic City. Let's transition to the Sixers. The draft tomorrow night. A lot of speculation that the Sixers will move Ben Simmons. In fact, it's being reported that it's increasingly likely that they will move Ben Simmons. So give me a Mike McGarry dissertation on where we stand with Ben Simmons.
Well, I don't think he's going to be moved around this draft. I don't think the Sixers have the draft capital to sort of – it's not like the Sixers have, you know, the top 3 picks and they can offer that to a team. And plus, I think the number one target that they're looking for is obviously Dame Lillard. And Dame Lillard is off in Tokyo right now for Team USA. So if the Portland Trailblazers are going to trade Dame Lillard, they're not going to do it without talking to Dame Lillard or having Dame Lillard, you know, intimately involved in that decision. So I agree 100%. Ben Simmons is going in the offseason, but it's going to be a complicated deal, and I don't think it's going to happen, you know, in the next couple of days or so. But I agree 100% that Ben Simmons is going in the off season, but I just don't think it's going to happen around the draft.
Do you have any reservations if you're Daryl Morey? Now, 3 teams that have been identified are the Heat, Raptors, and Wizards. Well, they all have something in common. You face them a lot, and they are in the Eastern Conference. Do you have any problem with that?
I would have a little bit of a problem with it. I mean, obviously, if I could trade Ben Simmons out west where I only have to see him twice a season, I would. But if I can get a quality all-star player back for him, you know, I wouldn't let that make the hold up the deal, basically. Because what do you play, the Western teams twice? What do you play, the Eastern teams 4 times? So at that point, I'm not going to let that hold me up, basically.
I mean, you play Miami or Washington or the Raptors. You know, these are teams that you get stuck in a playoff series against one of those. And I know Ben might be an issue in terms of offensively, but he comes in with some motivation to shut somebody down defensively, and that could change the playoff series.
Yeah, you know, obviously that's a good point. You don't want to see him in the playoffs either, but, you know, I've also seen him play in the fourth quarter on offense in the playoffs, and I might want to see him in that situation. So, you know, I might want to see the Ben Simmons that only took 6 shots in the playoffs in the fourth quarter of a 7-game series. So the flip side is also viable there, too.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Minute and a half. Howie Roseman did a good job, bad job, indifferent job this offseason as we enter camp.
I think he did a good job. I think he added some much-needed pieces, but it was a good job, but it's not going to be enough to get the Eagles to the playoffs. I still see a team that won 4 games last year. Even with the improvements, I see a team that's going to win 6 or 7 games this year. So I give him a good job. He added some pieces, but kind of limited by what was there from the beginning.
All right. Do you know what you're writing about for Friday yet?
I actually do. It'll be interesting. You mentioned the Eagles. We're going to sort of take a look at whether or not all this talk, should the Eagles even be thinking about trading for Deshaun Watson, you know, sort of my take on, you know, the adding Deshaun Watson debate. So that'll be online tomorrow and in the paper on Friday.
Okay, make sure you check that out. Follow Mike at AC Press McGarry. And, of course, he, like all guests here on the Sports Best, brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. Matt Blatt, they want to get you approved today, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. All right, Mike, thanks, man. I'll talk to you Friday.
All right, perfect time, Mike. Just about to head over the Walt Whitman Bridge, so thanks for the company on the ride.